Right now, before you go any further, just notice something. There is a voice inside your head. It is reading these words, reacting to them, deciding whether they make sense or not. It feels like you. It has always felt like you. But pause for a second. If you can hear that voice, then who is listening? Because something is speaking, and something else is aware of it, and you have never truly questioned this. You have spent your entire life trusting your thoughts, following your feelings, believing your choices are your own, without ever asking where they come from. Why does a thought appear when it does? Why does a desire pull you so strongly, even when it leads to confusion? Why do you react the same way, even when you promise yourself you won't? Why does your life keep repeating patterns, even when everything around you changes? It feels like you are choosing. It feels like you are in control. It feels like this is your life. But what if that feeling is the illusion itself? What if something you cannot see, something you have never noticed, is quietly running everything from the inside? Not forcing you, not controlling you in an obvious way, but shaping your thoughts, your desires, your reactions, so subtly that you never stop to question it. This is what the Vedas point toward. A hidden layer of reality where the mind is not the master, where identity is something built, and where what you call you may only be a surface. And the moment you begin to see this, not as an idea, but as something real happening inside you right now, everything begins to shift. Not outside, inside. Because the truth is not that you are powerless. The truth is that you have been looking in the wrong place. You have been trying to control the mind. Without realizing, you are not the mind. You have been following the voice. Without realizing, you are the one hearing it. And the moment you truly see this, even for a second, the system that has been running your life begins to break. Your mind isn't leading you, it's repeating what controls you. You believe your mind is guiding your life, but if you slow down and observe with honesty, you will begin to notice something that feels both subtle and unsettling, because it quietly challenges everything you have assumed about yourself. Your mind does not move forward freely the way you think it does. It circles, it repeats, it returns to what it already knows. The same thoughts come back in different forms. The same emotional waves rise in familiar situations. The same fears show up, even after you have tried to leave them behind. And the same habits continue, even when you make strong promises to change. You may change your environment. You may change the people around you. You may even change your goals. But something inside you continues to respond in the same way, as if there is an invisible script running quietly in the background. And this is where the deeper truth begins to reveal itself. This is not happening because you lack discipline, and it is not happening because you are incapable of change. It is happening because the mind is not designed to create freely in every moment. It is designed to operate from what has already been stored within it. The Vedas describe this as a system of impressions, subtle marks left behind by every experience, every emotion, every repeated thought, and every influence you have ever absorbed. These impressions do not disappear. They stay within you, shaping how you see the world, shaping how you feel, shaping how you respond, often without your awareness. So when a situation appears in your life, your mind does not pause and create a completely new response. It searches through what it already knows, what it has already felt, what it has already learned, and then it reacts from there. This reaction feels natural, it feels immediate, it feels like you. But in truth, it is a continuation of the past. That is why you can find yourself in different situations, but feeling the same emotions, meeting different people but repeating the same patterns, making new decisions but ending up in familiar places. It is not coincidence. It is repetition, and the most powerful part of this repetition is that it disguises itself as freedom. Because you are moving, because things are changing on the outside, because life appears dynamic, you believe you are progressing in a completely new direction. But if the inner pattern remains the same, then the movement is only surface level. You are not truly choosing a new path. You are walking the same path in a different shape. This is why real change feels so difficult, because you are not only changing your actions, you are facing the deeper patterns that have been running silently for years. And most people never see this. They continue reacting, continue repeating, continue believing that their mind is leading them forward, while in reality, it is pulling them back into what is already known. But the moment you begin to notice this pattern, not by forcing it, not by fighting it, but by simply observing it clearly, something begins to shift. You start to see your thoughts instead of immediately believing them. You start to recognize your reactions instead of becoming them. You start to feel the gap between what is happening inside you and what is actually real. And in that small but powerful gap, awareness begins to grow. This awareness is not another thought. It is not another pattern. It is something different, something still, something that is not controlled in the same way. And that is where true change begins. Not when you try harder, not when you force yourself to become different, but when you finally see that your mind was never fully leading you, it was only repeating what was already in control. And in that moment of seeing, even if it is quiet, even if it is small, you step slightly outside the pattern. And that is the first real step toward freedom. Your desires aren't yours. They were planted before you were aware. You feel your desires as something deeply personal, something that belongs to you, something that defines who you are and where your life is going. But if you slow down and look carefully, you may begin to question where these desires actually come from. Why do certain things pull you so strongly, even when they bring confusion or restlessness? And why do some paths feel so important to you, while others feel completely invisible, as if they were never even an option? It feels like you are choosing what you want, but in truth, most desires do not begin at the moment you feel them. They begin long before that, in places you never consciously noticed. From a very early stage of your life, you have been absorbing everything around you: the words people speak, the way they react, the values they carry, the fears they hold, the dreams they chase, and even the things they quietly believe without saying. All of this enters your mind without asking for permission, and slowly, over time, it settles deep within you as impressions that shape your inner world. The Vedas explain that these impressions are not passive. They are active forces that influence what you later experience as your own desires. So when you suddenly feel drawn towards something, it may not be a fresh, original choice. It may be something that has been forming within you for years, quietly waiting for the right moment to surface. This is why desires can feel so powerful, so convincing, and sometimes so difficult to understand. Because they are not created in the present moment, they are the result of accumulated influence. You may think you want a certain life, a certain person, a certain outcome, but if you trace that desire back, you may find that it is connected to something you saw, something you were told, something you felt, or something you believed at a time when you were not fully aware. And because these roots are hidden, the desire feels like it belongs to you completely. But this is where the illusion becomes subtle. You are not only experiencing your desires, you are identifying with them. You are building your sense of self around them. You are saying, "This is what I want. This is who I am." And yet, the Vedas gently suggest that what you call your desire may not be entirely yours. It may be something that was planted, shaped, and grown within you without your conscious choice. This does not mean your desires are wrong, and it does not mean you must reject them. It simply means you must begin to see them clearly. Because when you see clearly, something changes. You no longer chase every desire blindly. You begin to question it, to observe it, to understand where it is coming from and what it is truly asking of you. You start to notice that some desires create peace, while others create restlessness. Some bring clarity, while others bring confusion. And slowly, you realize that not every desire deserves your full trust. Some are echoes of the past, repeating themselves through you. Some are reactions to what you have been conditioned to believe. Some are attempts to fill something that cannot be filled in the way you think. The more you become aware of this, the less you are controlled by it. You begin to create a small distance between yourself and what you feel, and in that distance, you gain the ability to see rather than immediately act. And this is where something powerful begins to grow, because for the first time, you are not simply being pulled by desire, you are understanding it. You are not rejecting it, but you are no longer lost inside it. And in that quiet understanding, a new kind of freedom begins to appear. Not the freedom to chase everything, but the freedom to see what is real and what is only a pattern rising from the past. This is the moment where desire loses its unconscious control over you. Not because you forced it away, but because you finally saw where it came from. And once you truly see that your desires were not fully yours to begin with, you begin to discover what it means to live with awareness instead of impulse. You're not choosing your life. You're reacting to what's already programmed. You move through your day with the quiet belief that you are choosing your life step by step, that every decision you make is a result of your own thinking, your own will, your own control. But if you slow down and observe your actions with complete honesty, you will begin to notice something that feels almost invisible at first. Most of what you call choice happens too quickly to truly be called a choice. Someone speaks to you, and your reaction appears instantly before you have had the chance to think clearly. A situation unfolds, and your emotions rise immediately, without asking you what you would like to feel. A moment presents itself, and your response comes automatically, as if it was already prepared long before the situation arrived. This is not careful decision-making. This is reaction, and reaction is not created in the present moment. It is triggered from what is already stored within you. The Vedas describe this as a deep inner programming, a network of impressions, habits, and conditioned responses that guide your behavior without your awareness. Every experience you have ever had, every belief you have accepted, every repeated action you have performed has left a mark within your system. These marks become patterns, and these patterns become your automatic responses. So when life presents you with a moment, your mind does not pause to create something completely new. It searches through what it already knows and responds from there. This is why you can promise yourself that you will act differently next time, and yet when the moment arrives, you find yourself repeating the same behavior. It is not because you are not trying hard enough. It is because the response is already built into you, waiting to be triggered. And the most subtle part of this process is that it feels like you. It feels like your personality, your nature, your way of being. You say, "This is just how I am," without realizing that what you are calling yourself is often a collection of repeated patterns that have been reinforced over time. The illusion of choice is created because you are aware of your actions, but you are not aware of what is shaping them. You see the result, but you do not see the source. So, it feels like you are choosing, when in reality, you are responding to something that was already set in motion long ago. This is why life can start to feel predictable, even when you are trying to change it. Different situations arise, but the same feelings return. New opportunities appear, but the same fears hold you back. Fresh starts are made, but familiar endings follow. It is not life repeating itself. It is the inner programming repeating itself through different circumstances. And until this becomes clear, you will continue to believe that you are in control, while quietly being guided by what you cannot yet see. But something begins to shift the moment you become aware of this process. When you start noticing your reactions as they happen, when you begin to see the speed at which they appear, when you recognize the familiar patterns behind them, a small space opens within you. In that space, you are no longer fully lost inside the reaction. You are witnessing it. You are seeing it for what it is, not as a true choice, but as a conditioned response rising from within. And this seeing changes everything, not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet and powerful way. Because once you see that you are reacting, not choosing, you begin to step out of the illusion. You do not stop reacting immediately, and you do not become perfectly aware all at once, but something inside you becomes more present, more conscious, more awake. And slowly, that awareness begins to interrupt the automatic flow, not by force, but by clarity. And in that clarity, for the first time, something new becomes possible, not another reaction, but a real choice. A choice that does not come from the past. A choice that is not shaped by old patterns. A choice that arises from awareness itself. And this is where your life begins to change, not because you tried harder, but because you finally saw what was happening beneath the surface. Because the moment you realize you have been reacting all along is the moment you take your first real step toward choosing. The feeling of control is the illusion that keeps you asleep. There is a quiet comfort in believing that you are in control of your life, a feeling that everything is in your hands, that your thoughts, your choices, and your direction are all being shaped by you, and this feeling creates a sense of stability that most people hold on to without ever questioning it. It feels safe to believe that if you try hard enough, think clearly enough, and act carefully enough, you can manage everything, avoid pain, and move exactly where you want to go. But if you look deeper, this sense of control is not as solid as it appears. It is something fragile, something that can break the moment life moves in a way you did not expect. A single event can shake it. A single loss can challenge it. A single situation can show you that not everything responds to your will. And in those moments, the feeling of control begins to fade, revealing something you were not ready to see. The Vedas do not present this as something to fear, they present it as something to understand, because this feeling of control is not the truth itself. It is a layer that keeps you comfortable, keeps you certain, and, most importantly, keeps you from looking deeper. As long as you believe you are fully in control, you rarely question what is shaping your thoughts, what is influencing your desires, and what is guiding your actions. You remain focused on managing the surface, while the deeper processes continue silently underneath. This is how the illusion works, not by forcing you, but by convincing you that everything is already under your command. And because it feels real, you do not see the need to look beyond it. You continue making decisions, believing they are fully yours. You continue reacting, believing you are choosing freely, and you continue moving forward, believing you are directing your path. But underneath this belief, patterns continue to operate, conditioning continues to guide, and unseen forces continue to influence what you think, feel, and do. The illusion of control does not trap you through fear, it holds you through comfort. It allows you to feel certain, even when you are not seeing clearly. It allows you to feel in charge, even when deeper patterns are shaping your every step. And this is why it keeps you asleep, because you do not feel the need to wake up. You do not question what feels stable, you do not challenge what feels secure, and you do not look beyond what already makes sense to you. But the moment you begin to question this feeling, not with resistance, not with panic, but with calm awareness, something begins to shift. You start to notice the moments where control slips, the moments where thoughts arise on their own, the moments where reactions happen without your permission, the moments where life moves in ways you did not design. And instead of turning away from these moments, you stay with them, you observe them, you allow them to show you something deeper. You begin to see that control was never absolute, it was never complete, it was never what you believed it to be. And this realization does not weaken you, it does not make you powerless, it actually brings a new kind of clarity. Because when you stop holding on to the illusion of control, you stop fighting against everything that does not fit your expectations. You stop trying to force every outcome, you stop resisting every unexpected turn, and you begin to understand life as it is, not as you imagined it should be. In that understanding, something softens within you. There is less tension, less struggle, less need to dominate every moment. And in place of control, awareness begins to grow. This awareness does not try to control life, it sees life. It watches how things unfold, it understands how patterns move, and it allows you to be present without being trapped in the need to manage everything. This is where real awakening begins. Not when you gain more control, but when you see clearly that control was never what you thought it was. And in that moment of seeing, even if it is quiet, even if it is simple, something inside you begins to wake up, because the illusion that once kept you asleep no longer holds the same power over you. Something you can't see is generating every thought you trust. You trust your thoughts because they feel close to you, because they appear inside your own mind, because they seem to come from a place that feels personal and familiar. But if you pause for a moment and observe carefully, you will begin to notice something that is both simple and deeply unsettling. You do not choose your thoughts before they appear. They arrive on their own. One thought comes, then another follows, and then another, forming a continuous stream that feels natural, but is never fully under your control. If you try to predict your next thought, you cannot. If you try to stop them completely, you struggle. If you try to hold on to one thought for too long, it changes or disappears. This shows something important. Thoughts are not being created by you in the way you believe. They are being generated by a deeper process that is constantly active within you, a process that you rarely notice because it operates quietly beneath your awareness. The Vedas point toward this hidden movement, describing it as a subtle force, not something external controlling you, but something internal, something that has been shaped by countless impressions, memories, and influences gathered over time. Every experience you have had, every word you have heard, every emotion you have felt, every belief you have accepted, has left a trace within your system. These traces do not remain still, they interact, they combine, they give rise to thoughts that feel immediate and personal. So when a thought appears, it feels like your own voice. But in reality, it is the result of a deeper chain of stored impressions coming together in that moment. And because this process happens so quickly, you never see it forming. You only see the final thought. You only hear the voice after it has already been created. And because of this, you trust it without question. You believe it represents truth. You follow it as guidance. You build your decisions and your identity around it. But the truth is, not every thought you trust is truly yours, and not every thought you have deserves to be followed. Some thoughts are simply echoes of the past. Some are reactions to old fears. Some are patterns repeating themselves in new situations. And some are completely automatic, arising without any real meaning behind them. The problem is not that thoughts exist. The problem is that you identify with them completely. You assume that because a thought appears in your mind, it must be you speaking, it must be you deciding, it must be you understanding. But if you look deeper, you will begin to see that there is a difference between the thought and the one who is aware of it. There is something in you that notices the thought, something that sees it come and go, something that remains even when the mind becomes quiet. The Vedas invite you to recognize this difference, not as an idea, but as a direct experience. Because the moment you see that thoughts are being generated, not created by your conscious self, Something begins to loosen inside you. You stop believing every thought automatically. You stop reacting to every idea as if it defines you. You start to watch your mind instead of being completely lost in it. And in that watching, something powerful happens. The thoughts are still there, they still appear, they still move, but they no longer have the same control over you. They become something you observe, not something that fully defines you. This does not mean you reject your thoughts, it means you understand them. You see them as part of a process, not as absolute truth. And in that understanding, a quiet space begins to open within you, a space where you are no longer pulled by every mental movement, a space where awareness becomes stronger than reaction, a space where you can finally see clearly what is happening inside your own mind. And this is where a deeper kind of freedom begins. Because once you truly realize that something you cannot see is generating every thought you trust, you stop giving those thoughts complete authority over your life. You begin to step back. You begin to observe. You begin to understand. And slowly, without force, without struggle, you begin to wake up from the illusion that every thought is you. Who you think you are was slowly built without your permission. You carry a strong feeling of, this is me, a quiet certainty about who you are, how you think, what you like, what you avoid, and how you move through the world. And this sense of identity feels so natural that you rarely question it. It feels like something you discovered, something that has always been there, something that belongs to you completely. But if you slow down and look carefully, you will begin to see that this identity did not appear all at once. It was built slowly, layer by layer, over time. From the very beginning of your life, before you were even aware of yourself, things were being given to you. You were given a name, and you began to respond to it. You were given a language, and you began to think through it. You were given a culture, a way of seeing the world, and you began to accept it as normal. You were shown what is right and what is wrong, what is success and what is failure, what is desirable and what is not. And without questioning, you absorbed these ideas and allowed them to shape how you understand life. Even your emotional patterns were influenced. You learned how to react by watching others. You learned what to fear, what to chase, what to avoid, what to hold on to. And slowly, without realizing it, all of these influences came together and formed what you now call your personality. The Vedas explain that this process happens naturally, but it also creates a deep illusion, because once this identity is formed, you begin to believe that it is your true self. You say, "This is just who I am," without seeing how much of it was shaped by things you never consciously chose. Your preferences feel personal, but many of them were influenced by what you were exposed to. Your beliefs feel certain, but many of them were accepted without deep questioning. Your fears feel real, but many of them were learned over time. And your sense of self feels stable, but it is built on layers that were gradually added, not something that was always present in its current form. This does not mean your identity is false in a simple way. It means it is incomplete. It is a constructed layer, something that exists, but not something that fully defines who you are at the deepest level. And the more you hold on to it without awareness, the more it begins to limit how you see yourself and how you experience life. Because once you believe this is who I am, you stop exploring beyond it. You stop questioning your patterns. You stop seeing new possibilities. You begin to move within the boundaries of what you think you are, repeating the same behaviors, the same reactions, the same ways of thinking. This is how the constructed self keeps itself alive, not by force, but by familiarity. It feels comfortable to stay the same, even if that sameness quietly holds you back. But something begins to shift the moment you become aware of this process. When you start to see that your identity was built, not discovered, a new kind of space opens within you. You begin to observe your thoughts, instead of immediately calling them me. You begin to notice your reactions instead of fully becoming them. You begin to question your beliefs instead of holding on to them as absolute truth. And in that questioning, something loosens. The identity that once felt solid begins to feel flexible. The patterns that once felt fixed begin to feel changeable. And you start to sense that there is something deeper within you, something that existed before all of these layers were formed. The Vedas point toward this deeper presence, not as another identity, not as something you need to build, but as something that is already there, silent, aware, untouched by all the conditioning that has shaped your outer self. And the more you become aware of this, the less you are confined by what you thought you were. You do not need to reject your identity. You do not need to fight it. You simply begin to see it clearly. You see it as something that was formed over time, something that can be observed, something that does not have to control you completely. And in that clear seeing, something powerful happens. You are no longer limited to being only what you have been shaped into. You begin to move with more awareness, more openness, more freedom. Because once you truly understand that who you think you are was slowly built without your permission, you also begin to realize that you are not limited to that construction. You are something deeper, something aware, something that can see beyond the layers. And in that realization, even if it is quiet, even if it grows slowly, a new sense of self begins to emerge. Not one that is built from the past, but one that is rooted in awareness itself. You can't see the trap because you're thinking from inside it. There is something deeply subtle about the way your mind works, something that makes it very difficult to see clearly. Not because the truth is hidden somewhere far away, but because the very tool you are using to understand is already part of what is shaping your perception. You are trying to see the truth through the same thinking that has been conditioned, shaped, and influenced over time. And because of this, your understanding is often limited by the very system you are trying to observe. It is like trying to see the full shape of a room while standing inside it. Your view is always restricted by where you are positioned. No matter how hard you look, no matter how carefully you observe, you are still seeing from within the boundaries of that space. The Vedas describe this as a deep and silent trap. Not something that holds you physically, but something that holds your perception, your understanding, your way of seeing reality itself. You think through patterns that were given to you. You interpret life through beliefs you absorbed. You judge situations based on past experiences. And all of this happens so naturally that it feels like it is simply the way things are. But in truth, it is the way you have been shaped to see things. This is why, even when you try to change, even when you try to think differently, you often find yourself returning to familiar conclusions. You may attempt to break free, but you are using the same patterns of thought to do so, and those patterns quietly bring you back to where you started. This is the nature of the trap. It does not need to force you. It continues because you are participating in it without realizing it. Your thinking reinforces it. Your reactions strengthen it. Your identification with your thoughts keeps it alive. And because everything feels logical from within this system, you do not see the limits of it. You feel like you are understanding, when in reality, you are moving in circles within a fixed framework. The Vedas point out that this is why pure thinking alone cannot lead to complete clarity. Because thinking is part of the structure that has been conditioned. It operates within what it already knows. It rearranges what is already there, but it does not easily step outside of it. And this is why true insight feels different. It does not come from forcing more thoughts. It does not come from trying harder to analyze. It comes from a shift in how you relate to your own mind. Instead of being completely inside your thinking, you begin to observe it. You start to notice how thoughts arise. You see how they connect. You recognize how quickly they lead you to conclusions. And for the first time, You are not only thinking, you are also aware of the thinking. This small shift creates a distance. Not a physical distance, but a subtle space where you are no longer fully trapped inside the process. In that space, you begin to see patterns that were invisible before. You notice how certain thoughts repeat. You notice how certain beliefs shape your reactions. You notice how your perspective has been influenced without your awareness. And as this awareness grows, the trap begins to lose its hold. Not because it disappears immediately, but because you are no longer completely identified with it. You are no longer lost inside every thought. You are no longer convinced that every conclusion is the final truth. You begin to question gently, to observe quietly, to remain present without rushing to interpret everything. And in that calm observation, something begins to open. A different kind of clarity, one that is not built from conditioned thinking, but from direct seeing. The Vedas guide you toward this shift, not by giving you more ideas to believe, but by pointing you back to your own awareness, the part of you that can see without being trapped in what it sees. Because the moment you realize that you have been thinking from inside a system is the moment you begin to step outside of it. And that step is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is quiet, almost invisible, but it changes everything. Because once you are no longer fully inside the trap, you finally begin to see it. Time is the silent tool that keeps you from waking up. Time feels natural to you. It feels like the structure of life itself, something that moves forward, something that carries you from your past into your future, something that gives your life a sense of direction and meaning. You remember what has happened, you imagine what could happen, and in between these two, you believe you are living your present. But if you look more closely, you will begin to notice that your mind is rarely here. It is almost always somewhere else, either replaying what has already happened or projecting what might happen next. And this constant movement keeps you occupied, keeps you thinking, keeps you chasing, without ever stopping long enough to truly see what is happening right now. The Vedas describe this as one of the most subtle layers of illusion, not because time itself is false, but because of how your mind uses it to keep you from becoming fully aware. Your past becomes your identity. Everything you remember begins to define who you think you are. Your experiences, your successes, your failures, your pain, your story. And because you hold on to this story, you keep repeating it. You think from it, you react from it, you live through it, even when the present moment is completely different. At the same time, your future becomes your escape. You imagine a better version of life, a better version of yourself, a moment where everything will finally make sense, where everything will finally feel complete. And this imagination keeps you moving forward, always reaching, always waiting, always believing that what you are looking for is just ahead. So your mind is constantly moving between what was and what could be. And in this movement, something important is lost: the present. Because the present moment is not part of this mental story. It is not built from memory, and it is not shaped by imagination. It is simply here, silent, unmoving, clear. But because your attention is always pulled into time, you rarely stay here long enough to recognize it. This is how time becomes a silent tool that keeps you from waking up. Not by forcing you, not by controlling you, but by keeping you busy. Busy remembering, busy imagining, busy thinking, busy becoming. And as long as you remain busy in this way, you do not stop to question what is actually real. You do not see the patterns clearly. You do not notice how your mind keeps repeating itself. You do not recognize the deeper awareness that exists beyond this constant movement. The Vedas invite you to look at this differently, not by rejecting time, not by trying to stop it, but by becoming aware of how your mind is using it. When you begin to notice how often you are lost in the past, how often you are pulled into the future, something begins to shift. You start to return to the present, not as an idea, but as a direct experience. You notice your breath. You notice your surroundings. You notice the stillness behind your thoughts. And in that stillness, something becomes clear. You are no longer fully caught in the story of time. You are here, aware, present, not chasing, not holding, not becoming, just seeing. And in that simple awareness, the illusion begins to weaken. Because the moment you are fully present, even for a brief moment, the past loses its control and the future loses its pull. You are no longer defined by what has happened, and you are no longer driven by what might happen. You are simply aware of what is. And this awareness is different from everything else. It does not move. It does not change. It does not depend on time. It exists beyond it. This is why awakening is not found in the past or in the future. It is found in the moment you stop running through time and begin to see clearly. Because the moment you step out of the constant movement of past and future is the moment you begin to wake up, and you realize that time was never your enemy. It was simply the silent distraction that kept you from seeing what has always been here. The moment you start watching, the system begins to break. There comes a quiet turning point in your life that almost no one talks about, not because it is complicated, but because it is so simple that the mind often overlooks it. Nothing outside has to change. No dramatic event needs to happen. No new belief needs to be added. The shift begins the moment you start watching, not forcing, not controlling, not trying to fix anything, but simply watching what is already happening inside you. At first, this may feel small. You notice a thought appear, and instead of immediately following it, you pause for a moment. You notice an emotion rising, and instead of becoming completely lost in it, you observe it quietly. You notice a reaction forming, and instead of acting instantly, you see it as it is. This may seem like a very subtle change, but in reality, it is the beginning of something powerful, because, for the first time, you are not completely inside the system. You are also aware of it. The Vedas describe this awareness as something different from the mind, something that does not react automatically, something that does not repeat blindly, something that simply sees, and this seeing changes everything. Before this moment, your thoughts would appear and you would become them. Your emotions would rise and you would be carried by them. Your patterns would activate and you would follow them without question. But now, something new is present, a quiet distance, a small space between what is happening and how you respond to it. And in that space, the system begins to weaken, not because you are fighting it, but because you are no longer completely identified with it. You start to notice how thoughts come and go. You see how quickly they try to pull your attention. You recognize how certain patterns repeat in familiar ways. And instead of being controlled by them, you are observing them. This observation does not need effort. It does not need struggle. It is a simple awareness that remains present while everything else moves. And the more you stay with this awareness, the more clearly you begin to see. You see that thoughts are not as solid as they seemed. You see that emotions rise and fall on their own. You see that reactions are patterns, not commands. And slowly, the system that once felt so powerful begins to lose its grip. It does not disappear instantly. It still operates. It still presents thoughts, emotions, and reactions. But something has changed. You are no longer completely controlled by it. You are no longer lost inside it. You are watching it. And this watching creates a quiet transformation. You begin to respond more consciously instead of reacting automatically. You begin to feel emotions without being overwhelmed by them. You begin to think without believing every thought as absolute truth. And in this new way of being, life starts to feel different. Not because the world has changed, but because your relationship with it has changed. The Vedas guide you toward this state, not by giving you something new to believe, but by helping you recognize what has always been available to you. Awareness, the simple ability to see clearly, because the moment you truly start watching, the illusion of complete control begins to crack. The patterns begin to lose their power. The automatic reactions begin to slow down, and something deeper begins to emerge. A sense of presence, a sense of clarity, a sense that you are no longer just moving through life unconsciously. This is where the system begins to break, not through force, not through resistance, but through awareness. And the more you remain in this state of watching, the more the old patterns fade, the more the illusion weakens, and the more you begin to experience life in a way that is real, direct, and free. Because the moment you stop being completely lost in the system is the moment you begin to see beyond it. That voice in your head isn't you. You're the one hearing it. There is a voice inside your mind that never seems to stop. It comments on everything. It explains, it judges, it remembers, it worries, it plans, it repeats, and it fills your inner space with a constant stream of words that feels so close to you that you have always assumed it is you. From the moment you wake up to the moment you fall asleep, this voice is there, guiding your attention, shaping your interpretation of life, telling you what things mean and how you should feel about them. And because it is always present, because it feels so familiar, you have never truly questioned it. You have listened to it as if it were your own identity. You have believed it without hesitation. You have followed it as if it were your true self speaking. But if you slow down and observe carefully, something very simple and very powerful begins to reveal itself. You can hear that voice. You can notice it speaking. You can become aware of it as it forms words inside your mind. And this changes everything. Because if you can hear it, if you can observe it, then it cannot be the complete truth of who you are. There must be something deeper, something quieter, something more still that is aware of that voice. The Vedas point toward this subtle but powerful distinction, not as a concept to believe, but as something you can experience directly. The voice is always moving, always changing, always reacting, but the awareness that hears it remains still. The voice speaks, but the awareness listens. The voice judges, but the awareness sees. The voice becomes emotional, but the awareness remains present. And yet, for most of your life, you have been identified with the voice, not with the awareness behind it. You have believed that every thought is yours, that every mental comment defines you, that every inner sentence reflects your true self. This is why thoughts feel so powerful, because they are not just passing through you, they are being accepted as you. But when you begin to separate the two, even slightly, something shifts. You start to notice the voice instead of immediately becoming it. You hear it speak, but you do not follow every word. You recognize its patterns, its repetition, its tendency to return to the same ideas again and again. You begin to see that much of what it says is not new. It is a continuation of old impressions, old fears, old beliefs repeating themselves in different forms. And in that seeing, the voice begins to lose its absolute authority. It does not disappear, it continues to speak, but it no longer controls you in the same way. Because now, there is awareness. There is a presence that is not fully involved in the noise. A presence that can listen without reacting. A presence that can observe without becoming. This awareness is not loud. It does not compete with the voice. It does not try to argue or control it. It simply remains calm, still, clear. And the more you rest in this awareness, the more you realize that you are not limited to the voice in your head. You are the one who hears it. You are the one who sees it come and go. You are the one who remains even when the voice becomes quiet. This realization is not dramatic, but it is deeply transformative. Because once you stop identifying completely with the voice, you are no longer pulled by every thought it creates. You no longer react to every mental movement as if it defines you. You begin to experience a new kind of inner space, a space where thoughts can exist without controlling you, a space where silence becomes more noticeable, a space where you are present, not as the constant thinker, but as the quiet observer. The Vedas describe this as a shift from identification to awareness, from being lost in the mind to seeing the mind clearly. And in that shift, something opens. You begin to feel less overwhelmed by your own thoughts. You begin to feel less attached to every idea. You begin to move through life with a sense of calm that does not depend on what the voice is saying, because you are no longer defined by it. You are no longer limited to it. You are no longer controlled by it. You are simply aware of it. And in that awareness, something deeper becomes clear. You were never the voice. You were always the one hearing it. And the moment you truly see this, not as an idea, but as a living experience, a quiet freedom begins to grow within you. A freedom that does not come from changing your thoughts, but from no longer being controlled by them. Freedom doesn't come from control. It begins when control ends. For most of your life, you have been taught, directly or indirectly, that freedom comes from control. That if you can manage your thoughts, control your emotions, shape your environment, and direct every part of your life, then you will finally feel at peace. It sounds logical. It feels correct. It gives you a sense of direction. So you try. You try to control what you think. You try to control how you feel. You try to control how others behave. You try to control outcomes, situations, and even the way life unfolds around you. And for a moment, it may seem like it works. You feel a sense of order, a sense of power, a sense that you are holding everything together. But slowly, something begins to reveal itself. No matter how much you try, control is never complete. Thoughts still appear on their own. Emotions still rise without asking you. Situations still move in unexpected ways. People still act beyond your influence. Life continues to unfold in ways you cannot fully predict or manage. And this creates a quiet tension inside you, because the more you try to control everything, the more you notice how much is actually beyond your control. The Vedas do not deny this reality. They do not ask you to gain more control. Instead, they gently guide you toward a deeper understanding. They reveal that the struggle itself is coming from the belief that you must control everything in order to feel free. But what if that belief is the very thing keeping you trapped? What if the constant effort to control is not creating freedom, but preventing it? Because when you are always trying to control, you are always resisting something. You are resisting thoughts that do not match your expectations. You are resisting emotions that feel uncomfortable. You are resisting situations that do not go your way. And this resistance creates tension, pressure, and a constant feeling of effort. Freedom, in this sense, becomes something you are always chasing, but never fully reaching. The Vedas offer a different perspective. They suggest that freedom does not come from controlling every movement of life, but from understanding it, from seeing it clearly, from no longer being completely identified with it. When you begin to observe your thoughts instead of trying to control them, something changes. When you allow your emotions to rise and fall without forcing them away, something softens. When you accept that not everything can be shaped according to your will, something relaxes within you. This is not giving up. This is not becoming passive. This is becoming aware, because awareness does not need to control. It sees, it understands, it allows, and in that allowing, the struggle begins to fade. You are no longer fighting every thought. You are no longer resisting every emotion. You are no longer trying to force life into a fixed direction. Instead, you are present with what is happening. You are seeing it clearly. You are responding with awareness instead of reacting with habit. And in this shift, something unexpected happens. You begin to feel lighter. There is less tension inside you, less pressure to make everything perfect, less need to hold everything together, because you are no longer trying to control what was never fully yours to control. The Vedas point toward this as the beginning of true freedom. Not a freedom that comes from power over everything, but a freedom that comes from clarity, from presence, from awareness. A freedom where you are not trapped by every thought that appears. A freedom where you are not overwhelmed by every emotion that rises. A freedom where you can move through life without constantly trying to dominate it. And this freedom is quiet. It does not announce itself. It does not need to prove anything. It simply exists in the space where control has softened, in the space where resistance has eased, in the space where awareness has become stronger than the need to force. This is why the ending of control is not a loss. It is not something to fear. It is a doorway into a different way of living. A way of living where you are not constantly struggling against life, but moving with it, understanding it, seeing it clearly. And in that clear seeing, you realize something simple, yet deeply powerful. You were never meant to control everything. You were meant to become aware of it. And the moment you stop trying to control what cannot be controlled, is the moment you begin to experience what freedom truly is. The moment you truly see, your old life quietly falls away. There is a moment that does not look important from the outside. A moment that does not create noise, does not demand attention, does not announce itself in any dramatic way, and yet it becomes the turning point of your entire life. It is the moment you truly see, not think, not imagine, not believe, but see. See your thoughts as they arise without immediately trusting them. See your emotions as they move without becoming lost inside them. See your patterns as they repeat without calling them your identity. And in that simple, clear seeing, something begins to loosen. What once felt solid begins to feel temporary. What once felt certain begins to feel questionable. What once felt like you begins to feel like something you have been carrying. This is not confusion. This is clarity beginning to unfold. The Vedas describe this moment as a shift from unconscious living to aware living, not as a sudden transformation that changes everything instantly, but as a quiet awakening that slowly dissolves what is no longer real. Because once you see clearly, even for a brief moment, you cannot fully return to the same blindness. The old patterns may still appear. The same thoughts may still arise. The same emotions may still come and go. But something is different now. You are no longer completely identified with them. You are no longer fully convinced that they define you. You are no longer lost in them in the same way. And because of this, your old life begins to fade. Not because you force it to end, not because you fight against it, but because you are no longer feeding it with unconscious belief. The habits that once controlled you begin to weaken. The reactions that once felt automatic begin to slow down. The fears that once felt overwhelming begin to lose their intensity. And all of this happens quietly, almost invisibly, without effort, without struggle. It is like something inside you has stepped back, and in that step, the entire structure begins to change. You start to move differently, not in a forced way, but in a natural way. You respond instead of react. You observe instead of assume. You remain present instead of being pulled constantly into past and future. And this presence changes your relationship with everything. The same world exists around you. The same people, the same situations, the same life. But your experience of it is no longer the same, because you are no longer living from the same place. The Vedas point toward this as the beginning of a deeper life, not a life that is separate from the world, but a life that is no longer controlled by unseen patterns, a life where awareness is at the center, a life where you see clearly instead of moving blindly. And in this clarity, something peaceful begins to grow. a quiet stability that does not depend on circumstances, a calm presence that remains even when things change, a sense of understanding that does not need constant confirmation. This is not something you achieve. It is something that reveals itself when the illusion begins to fall away. Because the moment you truly see, the old version of you cannot continue in the same way. The old beliefs lose their hold. The old patterns lose their strength. The old identity loses its certainty. And what remains is not empty. It is full of awareness, full of presence, full of a quiet knowing that does not need to be explained. This is why the change feels so gentle. There is no need to destroy your old life. There is no need to force yourself into something new. It simply fades on its own. Because what was built on unconscious patterns cannot survive in clear awareness. And as it fades, something deeper becomes visible. Not something new that you must create, but something that was always there, still, silent, aware, waiting for you to see it. And the moment you truly see, your old life does not end with noise or struggle. It simply falls away. And in its place, a different way of living begins. One that is not controlled, not forced, not driven by unseen patterns, but guided by awareness itself. So now, you see a little more clearly. Not everything, not all at once, but enough to feel that something has shifted inside you. You have seen that your mind repeats more than it leads, that your desires may not be as personal as they feel, that your reactions often come before your awareness, and that the sense of control you held onto was never as solid as it seemed. You have seen that thoughts appear without your permission, that your identity was slowly built over time, that you have been thinking from inside a system you never questioned, and that time itself has been quietly keeping you distracted from the present moment. And, most importantly, you have seen that there is something within you that can observe all of this. Something still, something aware, something that is not fully caught in the patterns. This is where everything begins. Not in changing the world around you, not in forcing yourself to become something new, but in staying with this awareness. Because the moment you forget, the patterns will return, the mind will repeat, the reactions will take over, the illusion will rebuild itself. But the moment you remember to watch, even for a second, the system begins to loosen again. So do not rush, do not force, do not try to control what you have just seen. Just remain aware. Notice your thoughts as they come. Notice your reactions as they rise. Notice the quiet space behind it all, because that space is where you are not controlled. That space is where clarity lives. That space is where your real life begins. And the more you return to it, again and again, slowly, gently, without pressure, the more everything that once felt heavy begins to fall away on its own. So as you leave this moment, do not carry just words. Carry the seeing, carry the awareness. Carry that quiet understanding that something deeper is always present within you, because once you have seen even a glimpse of truth, you can never completely go back to living unconsciously again. And that is not the end of something. That is the beginning of everything.